All right, my brother. We made it. We made it. Can you still hear me? Look like you got your. Give me a shout out. You got me? You had that look upon your face. Can you hear me? You can't. You can't hear me. Can you hear me now? Is it? Oh, sort of like that connection. Oh, you left. You're gonna come back. Okay. All right. You're gonna come back to us. Looking forward to that. We're gonna be talking about some decisions. Choices plus decisions is always consequences. And so we're just trying to get set and get those things going. Well, let's give it another try, my brother. See where you at. Can you hear me? All right. Somebody can give me a thumbs up in the okay, the family's coming in. Can in the chat room, can anyone hear or all right, he done left again. Let's see what we can do. We are just trying to get it together. That's all. This is the day. Ha ha. Yeah, that the Father has made and something new unto us, and we will rejoice and we're going to be glad in it. I think that a lot of choices plus decision making. I know, I'm not sure if they can hear me. If those of you in the chat room, can somebody put a thumbs up or a letter or something? Okay, all right, okay, all right. So we'll wait and give my brother a couple of minutes and see what that is and see how we can work those things out. And as soon as he gets back, maybe we can talk a little bit. I don't want to get too far into it, but I can do the power up disclaimer. One of the things is when we are coming to power up, I want you to do some critical thinking, some things think about the things that what's going on. And so that's going to be very, very important. We just want to add to, and maybe some of you are a part of other assemblies and things like that. And then you have your leadership as well, and always refer back to them as well when you're trying to learn different things. A lot of times I'm not saying this is it. I'm just trying to get us to understand and to look at maybe something in a different way, a different manner, and somehow maybe it can help us to see something maybe we haven't looked at before, or to just solidify or agree with something that you already have. So something that's something that we'll look forward to, and something that we do look forward to in that. So that's the heart. And the heart of the power up is to make sure that to give us that, sort of that boost or that joy that we need to get us through. And that's the concept. That's just the concept of that, to take different moments and what it might be for you. It could be different for somebody else in that, and not to really try to come in to correct the all in all, but to give you something to really think about and to carry you on. And hopefully it can be an encouragement. And that's where we're trying to go. Because one of the things that we try to do is to make sure that we build one another up. And so we want to impart those things unto you in order for it could be pleasing to the hearers, and so that's what we want, something in that. Now, when we say not to please, but to be pleasing, or to make sure that what you hear can be beneficial for you in your life, whether you never heard something before, or whether you agree with it, or whether you don't agree with it, all of those things are there, and it's there to help us to continue in our growth in that. So I know my brother, he I was trying to give them a couple of minutes, and maybe we'll go ahead and dive in here and see what's going on. Let me give a shout out to those of you that are in the room here, and thank the Father for that, and just giving him the praise, the honor, and the glory. All right. All right. It seems like everybody is in. All right. It seems like my brother might have popped back in here. Let's see if we can get him in here. We won't charge him much. See if it. All right. All right, brother. You hear me?
Sir, yes, sir.
Okay. All
Great
right.
job.
Yeah. You hear me? That's all right. I'm glad they gave me a thumbs up when you had left. So we was gonna just blame you then. It would- we gonna blame you. We're gonna put it in your corner. We're gonna blame you and put it in your corner. So glad that you can make it back, and to that we all can enjoy one another. So I'm glad that everyone is here, and that those of you that will be coming in and will be listening later. So I'm so grateful, hallelujah, to the Most High. I am grateful to the Most High in that, every day is a Thanksgiving day. We thankful for that, and to give thanks and to praise him, and according to sometime how your day go. Sometimes you are tired, sometimes it's a lot going on, and sometimes it is not as much going on, and all of these things, and we have points in our day where we can just be thankful. And I think that's even a power up moment, that if you just take out time sometimes, most times, even at the job, we have lunch time, we have break times, and all of that. And sometime when it gets seems to get a lot, or what we call the pressure zone, it's always good to think about, to give thanks. In order to give thanks, then you have to think about what you are thankful for, and sometimes it'll take away from that other, we call them stress and all that, but it takes away from that other what you should be doing. And so a lot of times it's not this stress, it's just that you are busy and you are focused on the job at hand, whatever that may be. If that's in the workplace, if that's at the home, all of it is classified as work and labor. Right? All of the labor that you're doing. Maybe it's just fixing your car. Maybe you had things around the house to do. All of those things. And it's always good to think about something that you could be thankful for. And when you do that, it takes that other tension off. And then you can go back to go back to being focused as well. And sometimes that thankfulness can run over to it. If you are out doing, say, working on the car, and you're saying, like, if you like me, sometimes you can't get those parts in there, and the screwdriver is not right. I can't find this, and I'm trying to find that, and all of that thing. And sometimes you just take a break and begin to thank the Father for just having the automobile. That would be a grateful time. And so sometimes that thankfulness will run over into what you're doing. And so when you go back at it, then it can be a different, I want to say, feeling, or a different a way of looking at it. And then sometimes things, it seems like they just may get worse. And so you thought I was going to say they're going to get better, but sometimes they just get worse. But that's okay. It's still the thankfulness is there. So it could go either way. And so that's a choice. So we starting off with choices. That's a choice that you have to make. That wasn't in the in my notes here, but that was a choice that we need to make. You have to make that choice to be thankfulness, but you have to do something in order for that to happen. I want to say a couple of things today. One of them to get us to thinking, and when I was saying about something, I want you to look at, not so much that it may be so, but if you look at this, a choice. When I'm thinking about choices, before we get maybe deep into different segments of this, one of the things I want to know is all. Now, this is very, very important, right? I want to, all of us, we have believed or accepted something that is not correct. All of us. And some of us still have it, and some of us will have it. So that's a point where you can always come from and remember that. And I want to attach that to that, that we all have something that is not correct. So, that helps us to not to get boastful. It helps us to not to get into ourselves. And that helps us to realize that we all right now, you have something that is not correct, whatever it is. Of course, when we're talking about power up, most time we're talking about our scriptures. And even with that, it's still that. Even though you think you know, right? Even though you think you know, it could be something in there that you don't have correct. And I'll almost put it all everything on it. There is something in there that is not correct. No, not so much as that you are wrong and all of those things. A correctness is just that you are willing to grow and you just didn't know. Okay, so I want you to realize that and jot that down. You're willing to grow, but you just didn't know. That's all. Just relax. You didn't know that. You didn't know that. And so when we get into the choices here, we only can choose something of what we have and our surroundings and what we know and all of those things. But I think that if nothing else on tonight will come forth, is I want us to realize that we all have something that's incorrect. And it puzzles me because it's not that you can't help somebody. And so in our English words or the words that we are trying to use is you trying to correct somebody. But I know I am talking about myself, and maybe that'll make it easier, right? I corrected somebody with something that was not correct. Have you ever done that before? I wonder, right? And then I found out that what I'm correcting them with wasn't correct, but I was bold in correcting them, but it was not correct. So how do you correct the incorrect with the incorrect? Right? And so sometimes it is when we looking at it, we're looking at these choices, and then we looking at the decisions that we make. Right? So I have a choice of what these choices I want to do, and the decision, and whatever we do. Right? In Genesis chapter 3, of course, we have, let me see here. Genesis. Okay, let me bring this up real quick. Genesis chapter 3. And we all, maybe those of us that are students of the word, have somehow have at the birth sheet, at the beginning, somehow we have looked at this. So we know about the woman and the serpent. We know about that. And then, of course, he was saying, you should not surely die. So it was a conversation going on here. And I want to be careful because I have a tendency to jump all the way into this. But coming from our perspective as we begin this, we coming from a perspective of choice plus decisions. And then we want to know that it's going to always equal consequences. Right? So the choices that she made in this, Elohim knows that in the day that you eat of it, your eyes shall be open, and you shall be like Elohim, knowing good and evil. Right? That's what he presented to her. And the woman saw that the tree was good for food. She saw those things, but she had a choice that she had to make. Right? It was pleasant to the eyes, and the tree desirable to make one wise. And she took of the fruit, and then she ate. All right. So there was a choice in there. There was decision. And as we going on, we realized that there was even a consequences, because after she done that, then surely her eyes was open. Right. And then we know the story. The father came in the cool of the day and called out. And so I don't want to stay there too long, but I do want us to know that even from the beginning, there was a choice. That's where I wanted to go. Even from the beginning, there was a choice there. So it was the decision being made, and you always your choice of what is correct and what's not correct, because even from the beginning you was dealing with what's correct, in our explanation of this English word, what's correct here. What did he say, what he did not say, and there's so much into that. But we want to stay with the simplicity of it, and it can go deep. It can go real deep. But there was a choice, there was a decision, and as we go on, we understand it was a consequence, right? Consequences in that. So one of the things I want us to get out of this is that all of us have something that's incorrect. So relax. And so we need to relax. And so I may have something that is correct, but it's something in there that I have too that is not. And according to what it is, if it's the things that's in the scripture, the things are there to help us to grow. You can only do what you know. So it's there to help us to grow. And I'm repeating myself again. It's there to help us to grow into those things, right? It's help us to grow. So we have to be careful and not to, repeating myself again, to not to be puffed up in those things. Because we have those choices. We can choose to do that. And then in that process, we have to make a decision of whether to move out in that, because all of our choices are going to end up taking actions, right? They're going to take actions in that. And so from a biblical perspective, when we doing this and when we talking about the word, right, we're talking about our scriptures, then everything has to line up with the creator of the universe, right? So all of the, and we'll get into just say the side, I call it the sideline. But if you know, and you are in covenant with the Most High, that's what governs and guards your decision making. And that way no one can move that, right? No one can move that. That what you believe in that until you can grow more, and that's how I wanted to put it. Until you can grow more or get an understanding more, and we'll deal with the wisdom, because the wisdom is in the word. If all of us stick with the wisdom of the word, we will be going somewhere, right? And if we don't vary from that, if we don't change laws from that, if we don't make laws from that, if we do all of those things, but if we stay lined up in that, and then we'll recognize that those choices that we make, our decisions will be more refined. And then the consequences that come from that, because you're going to have them, right? No matter what it is. So when we are born, right, we are born in this, I want to say we're born really not knowing anything like that. That's the infant phase. And then you begin to grow. And so then life is, I'm using on this part is corrections, incorrections. We are becoming what the Father desires us to come. Now, I want to say this. This is only example. This is not no new revelation. I did nothing like that, right? I just want you to think about it in this way. I try to sometimes, and not maybe always effective in it, but I try to give you a different a way of looking at it. And that's what we're trying to do on Power Up. And maybe that the Ruach will move, because the Ruach is always the teacher, right? And will teach you those things. He will use the men and women, but he will refine it and what you need for in your life, in your moment, and what you would need. And he will refine those things in that. So you becoming, so you, in this sense, if you allow me to say, you are born, and then you are an inner world, and you still growing, and you still being, in this sense, in this form I'm using, born, because you come in as an empty shell. It's still empty, right? And then being empty like that, here it comes, the information and all of those things, and you begin to grow, and things around you begin to develop. And so you are still growing. Other words, you are you are birthed in the earth, and then you begin to grow. So you birth in the earth and you still growing. You still growing. In other words, if I would take it and say, you still in the mother's womb. So if I use the earth as the womb in the sense of you being birthed naturally, and then you have to grow. So you still in this womb, and then you have to grow up, right? Again, then you get those information and you begin to make those choices, and all of those choices are being there, and then you become in what we say to that we use adulthood, or you begin to grow, right? And so sometimes the limitation of being a young adult, we call them teenagers and all of that, sometimes that limits you, but you never stop growing. You never, and what I'm saying is in that you never stop learning, and there will always be things to line up with. So your life is a continuous lining up. And then what the choices you make is how hard or how easy, in the sense of according to what it is that your life will be, right? Your life will be. So, in using that example, you can still kind of picture yourself still growing. And so you growing one way. You grow from younger to the strength of a young adult to an adult to an older and wiser person, but you still growing. You're always growing. And so, and that to become that is to become what the Father desires for us to be. And he desires for us to have his word, right? He desires us to have his word in there. So the choice is there. The wisdom is there. Then the intelligence is there. All of this, when you make the right choices, those choices, right? They are not independent of that which you are, because when you're making a choice, it's coming from something, right? And sometimes the information that you have is limited in that. And so the first introduction to what we would have is our parents. That's the first introduction to those choices and those things and how to refine those things. And then from there, you have to have a submission of a heart. Your heart has to be submissive to the things of the Father. And then those, because there's so much around us, because we talking about the wisdom, these choices of wisdom, a wise man, right? A wise man. And that's integrity. And the wisdom comes from Torah. So it's a moral concept. If sometimes I don't like using that in the sense of, but if you lack wisdom, then you need Torah, right? And that'll give you what you need, the integrity of what you need, because it will never, what I want to say, it'll never leave, in the sense of it'll be the same. That's what I'm trying to say. It'll be the same. It never varies up and down. It'll be the same. Now we change, but it still will be the same. And so most times then we don't want to be foolish, because our choices and our decision could be foolish, that are outside of the things of the Torah. That's a foolish decision, or that's a foolish, what we're going to say, choice plus decision equals, because your consequences is going to be a very, very heavy. Your consequences is going to be heavy when it's a foolish choice outside of the word. And so when we're dealing with the word, because again, we're making those choices there every day. Let me slide this up a little bit. So again, I'm repeating the alignment. Bring the alignment in, because your alignment will bring about your purpose, right? And then it'll bring about a greater knowledge in the things of the Father, a greater insight in the things of the Father. And then what we have is those of us are in the covenant, we have obedience and then disobedience. We want to function. Our best function is in obedience. That's where we function at. So we always have the choice of obedience or disobedience. So when we make a choice to be obedient, that's our decision. I want to do that. Then we have consequences on that of being obedient. We have consequences on being disobedient, right? And so most times the reason the not only those of us that in covenant, but if the whole world is the same thing. If it was good enough for those of us that in covenant, it's all because he the creator of the universe, right? So it should be good enough for all of us. And so remember what our choices is. Now, brother, I know that I'm gonna let you go in because I do. We'll go into decision making maybe into that, and then we'll go into maybe some of the consequences if time would allow us to do so. But so far, my brother, I want you to give us just some thoughts and then some clarifications. And I know that you always aid and help me to refine that which I need. And I appreciate you.
But likewise, Maury. Oh man, this is a whole lot right here. So I'm thinking, and that was definitely a power up on what you said in the beginning about being sure. That was a good look. So I guess really what was standing out there at the end when you were explaining this, alignment process, like how it begins in your home, with the following your parents in a submissive, being submissive to that authority, which is like the training to be submissive to, the authorities that are to come later in that sense. I like what you were saying in that. And you said something that struck me about lacking wisdom. If you're lacking wisdom, you need Torah. And that foolishness is found outside of the word. Um, so that was really like a highlight for me in understanding what you were saying and how these decisions and this process, there was a development to what you were saying.
Hmm.
When I find out that I'm lacking wisdom and I need the Torah, how then do I obtain that? Is really what was really getting to me. How would I obtain that to start applying that to make the better decisions, to make better choices that are aligned with the word? Because there's a lot of, like you said, foolishness outside of the word. So how do I know what I'm going for is inside of the word? How do I know that it's aligned with the word so that I can grow? Like you were saying about where did you say it? Willing to grow. I'm willing to grow. So how now that I know I need these things, how I'm thinking about how to apply them.
Yeah, but well, if you're asking a question, then you apply them in the sense of you have to know what you're applying it to. So you have to know the word, right? So other words, if it's telling you to take 5 steps and then go to the right, then that's what we do. Take five
Mm-hmm.
steps and go to the right. In that, if it says husbands love your wives, then that's what you do. So that helps your choice, right? That helps my choice. My choice is to do, first of all, when I was in covenant, to do His will, right? So, I'm tired of loving my wife, right? So if I'm saying that, then my choice has to be that it says husbands love your wife, right? So my choice is okay. My choice is to do His will. So as a husband, I need to love my wife. That's the decision that I have made. And the consequences of that is yet I'm obedient because I did what the word said. And the consequences are what I would get from that is point one, it may be she will love me back more. Or point two, it would strengthen the relationship. Point three, I mean, it could go on in that, in that. But the consequences of not loving her could be that she doesn't love me in this simplest form, right? In that. Did that help?
Yes, sir. That definitely did. So
Okay.
so it's that the good and bad in the consequences, not like there are good consequences.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
Mm-hmm.
all right.
All
Well,
right.
I'm tracking.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, all right. Actually, good. Good. So so when we're talking about decisions, then we have short-term decisions that we make, and then we have long-term decisions, and they will equal consequences, and how the decisions they can differ and have different effects over time. So sometimes you have short term, then you have long term, because what the choices that you make may not show up right away, you know. So, but whatever you choose, you always affect something. Now, here's where I want to park for a minute here. I want you to think about this: is this will help us, right? This will help us when we are trying to make choices and decisions about it, because they go hand in hand, because of the consequences. What some people now I'm not saying don't use this, okay? It's not nothing new, but it's difficult for me to process. My personal choice is ba da 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 da, right? When people say I have a personal choice, my personal choice is the way that I look at it, and you can help me either, my brother, when I put you back in here, is the whatever choice you make. When we say personal, you are making the choice. Every choice you make affects something. So if we are thinking about the English word, then that won't be so much of a personal thing, because when people think about personal things, they thinking about that it would not affect no one else. They'll say, well, that's the way you think, not the way I think, or whatever, or or what I'm doing won't affect you, but that's not so. Whatever you're doing, just take out time to meditate and think on that. Whatever you're doing is affecting someone or something, right? It's affect whatever that choice is. And so what helps us to make more precise decisions is to recognize, to go ahead and see what it is of the consequences. So sometimes when we read our scriptures, my brother, we'll see what the consequences are. If you're obedient, this is the consequences. If you're not obedient, this is the consequences, right? And so it's been that way from the beginning. But you're gonna affect someone. That garden situation affected from generation to generation to generations. That one decision that they made together, right? It affects. So you will always affect someone. And so what helps us to make better decisions? And some people will say, I want to make better decisions. Well, what's going to help you when we're talking about, say, the things of the Father at this particular time, and it can run into anything, because whatever decision it is, it's going to be that. So when it comes to the things of the Father, whatever, we have the Word, and that helps us, and it will put us in the category of what it's going to be. But we need to think about it, you know. We need to slow down and to think about those choices that we're making. And most of all, though, who is will affect, because it's going to affect someone. And so sometimes we have this thing out here that my personal decision. And even though you making that decision, even though that statement could be so, I want you to know, though, that personal decision extends and affects everything around you. Whatever that decision is, it's going to affect it, right? And it may not be immediate consequences. And that's when it's easy of our choices, of our decisions, and the consequences, because the consequences can linger, if you allow me to say. Other words, they can be instant, immediate, right? It can be short term, long term. The consequences, you still made the decision, but the consequences could be, if I rob a bank, the consequences could be, I'm just using it, 5 years, 10 years, or 15 years, or whatever, the life, or whatever it is, right? So the consequences, the terms of the consequences could be different. You know, if you're disobedient, then I will scatter you to the four corners of, that's what the Most High told us. He scatters out the disobedient, right? And so look at the decision that we have made, our forefathers had made, has caused us to scatter in such a way that we are now, right? In that. So the impact of that sometimes of the time frame, and that's what the consequences, and we feel like, okay, I'm okay, but there are going to be consequences, and they would end up later, you know, in that consequences. And so at the present time, most time we get those short term ones, we get the gratification of it, but long term, it's going to get you. You know, so sometimes in our decisions, and you know, we get that gratification right away, but it impacts us, and the delay of it impacts us, our decisions differently. Again, immediate, and then sometimes long, right? And so sometimes that helps us even in our decision making, but sometimes it hinders us because the decision that we made, the consequences wasn't immediate. And so it will affect someone or something, but it may affect them at different points and different times. And we use times, right? So it could affect them. It could do it later, you know. In that, I used to smoke cigarettes when I was younger, but it is a possibility if I kept smoking, then when I got older, it would affect me differently. But at the time when I was younger, matter of fact, I was playing basketball and sports and everything, you know. So I didn't comprehend that it was affecting my lungs. Even though I was doing it at the time that was the thing to do, we looked at it as what we call the word being cool, or it makes you look like you was an adult, or it makes you look important, and all of those things. So the choices that I made, if I would have kept on, even the pack told me that could give me cancer, right? It could affect me. But at that time I was doing it, it didn't. I could still now. Now I had to kill. Still would have to catch my breath. But I was playing ball and running and all of those things, and it didn't affect me then. But it was a short. That choice was a gratification that was short of enjoyment. But if I would have kept that same thing going, at the end of that, it was going to be something, right? It's going to be something. So it's the same thing. If it's food or whatever, those things are going to cause consequences in that, whatever we do. And so we're not so much of, when it comes to the things of the Father, we want to be obedient. But the other every day, and when I say every day, because the Father, it's not a religion. Being in a covenant with the Most High, that's not you go to. You don't go to do nothing. This is our life. This is our life. Torah is our life, right? It's our heartbeat. And so we don't, like, say, in a sense, go outside of that, but we have to make choices of what we're doing, in that. And so the simplest choice, and when I say that differs, is the fact that I can go down and I come on the intersection. Should I go left or should I go right? Right? That's a simple choice. So say if I turn left and I went down the end of the street and there was a dead end. Right. So the consequences of that is I'm not going to get through. That's not a through street. I can't get through to the other side. So what I should have did was should have went right when I came upon that intersection. So the only thing I had to do is turn around and boom, going back down, and I'm headed in another direction. It was a delay. So in the natural, you still have those delays, and it will affect something, right, or somebody. So according to how far I went down, it affect my gas, how it affect my time. It threw me off of the time according to how far I went down. If I had an appointment, it threw me off of the whole appointment, right? So it affected something, or it's going to affect somebody, right? And most of the time, the majority of the time, a person will be involved in it, in that. If you late, for something, and we'll say appointment because that's fresh on my mind. If you're late for appointment, that affects everybody else's appointment. That affects the person that's waiting on you, right? So all of that. So that decision to be late affected people. Decision to be late may affect the people behind me. The decision to be late may delay what I went to the appointment for, right? All of those things. So those are just just the normal things that we do have in that. So the best thing to be, if it's 9 o'clock, to make sure that I'm not there, I need to be there before 9. Some places you go, they say, okay, you supposed to have an appointment at 9. We are expecting you at 8:45, right? So at 8:45, because they know that if you're there at 8:45, that means that you're gonna be there at the 9. So don't let it be on us, let it be on them. So they have consequences. So I just kind of side park that in, but it's the decision makings that we have in that. So brother, I'll let you back in and see if you had something as well on that. And yeah, any question?
Okay. So with what you were saying in Better Sheets, so because the man and the woman were lacking on the understanding of what was written and what was said, they made a decision that was out of alignment with what the Father was doing with them.
Yes, sir.
So when you were saying that, I think I started to understand a little bit more. So it was that if when you're talking about long and short-term consequences, when we say this is my personal choice and then we act, like if I will, the ripple effect of those things is going to affect more than just me. Like I may say that it's just my decision, but it could pour over and affect my son. It could affect my wife. It could affect our neighbor.
Yes, sir.
And just like secondhand smoke, like if someone smokes and I don't smoke and they're standing next to me, their decision, their personal decision is affecting me. So in that sense, and someone would even say that's worse, the secondhand. So like when you were saying that, it started like helping me understand, and the idea of like our decisions are not faultless, whether they go to the or they go to the bad. Like if I cast a stone, it creates a ripple. If I cast a boulder, it creates a wave. And either way, this is going to affect somewhere else. So I like what you were saying in that, because our whole community and our current environment will be affected on, like you were saying, these simple decisions that we may label as personal. But what was coming to my heart when you said that is that if we knew the word of Elohim beforehand, we'll make decisions that are better prepared for what is to come. So it's like I can make better choices because I know what was written and I know what was said. But and that would show the wisdom. But if I act outside of what was written and what was said, then I wouldn't be able to reap the consequences of the good to come. So it's like if I have a pessimistic or downcast perspective on things, that's going to make all my decisions out of that perspective. I'm going to make all my decisions coming from that lowly place, versus if I set my mind on the things above and I operate from that mindset, then I'll be able to reap better outcomes or better consequences. And like when you were saying that in the short and long term, I totally understand. I think it's like Romans 5 or something. They're saying because one man sinned, many became sinners. So there's that whole opportunity. But just like you were saying, the switch. So one man's action, many can be made righteous. So I do, in that sense, if that's close to what you were saying, that's what I'm understanding right now.
Yeah, my brother. And I just want to just before we get ready to close this, to make sure that that main point of because I didn't understand that at one time, because it is promoted my personal choice. My personal choice is such and such and such and such. But that's my personal. But you are affecting those around you, though. So if you got 1,000, 10,000, 20,000, a million people making these personal choices, they only personal when you make it, but when you do it, the consequences of it affects other people, you know. So, no matter what you're doing in that, it's going to affect something. So if I do an oil change and take the oil change and pour it in the sewer line, that's going to affect something, right? Or if I pour it in the ocean, it's going to affect the fish. It's going to affect the ducks and everything that eats off of that. It was my personal choice to pull it in there, but it's going to affect everybody else around me. So whatever I would do, if I choose to run the light, the red light, the signal light, if I choose to run that, excuse me, I could damage somebody else and even kill them. Oh, yes, that was your personal choice, but it's going to affect somebody, in that. So somebody or someone or something, when I say thing, it it could be if you're working on the car and if you had, I'm not gonna put this bolt in, it'll be all right. Well, that bolt might cause your brakes not to work, right? And so even though you didn't hit nobody, it wasn't, when the brakes went out, doesn't mean that you didn't affect somebody. But when those brakes went out, then that means that it was not fixed. So I still injured something. My car wasn't acting properly. Now I have to get it fixed, or fix it again or whatever, all of those things. So it affects us, it's moving, it's life. And I want, people needs to understand that. But I said on the heavy end of it, it always affects a person, especially if it's immediate in your family. All of the what you're gonna eat tonight, what you're not eating tonight, how early you go to bed, how early you don't go to, you send the children to bed, how early I go to bed, how early I don't. It's gonna affect somebody. And then when if I went to bed too late and got up to go to work, it's gonna affect everybody at that job when I don't do my job because I'm too sleepy. So how you doing today? I said, man, I'm tired. Why is that? I was up all night doing da 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 da. I'm tired. So that's going to affect It's not going to. It's not going to run smooth, and then it might come to the point where somebody have to carry my load because I decided. I made a choice. I made a decision, and my consequences now is they're going to have to do more. So I'm affecting somebody. I'm affecting somebody in that, and those are just examples. So if we was to think about things and choices that we made in our life, they always affect somebody. Even, like I say, the if you want to say the positive and the negative is still there, you know, in that. And I think what happens to us is because something does not happen right away, we might think it's the correct decision, right? The choice was even correct. So choices plus decision, you know why? Because the consequences was not immediate. That is a place of deception, right? Because I felt like my consequences was all right and there wasn't. That choice was still a negative choice, right? So the same thing with doing good. You can make a decision to do good, but the consequences won't come later. So other words, if I was thinking right now, when I was thinking when I was younger, and there was a place I thought about that too. If I thought that, I can't, I don't need to say save for when I get older, and we most of us say retirement or whatever, right? If I don't look towards that, then when I get older, I'm gonna suffer that consequences of the decision I made when I was younger to not to put anything away, right? So I can't blame them. Now it's going to affect everybody around me, right? Or something like that, if that was possible. I'm saying all things being equal because, things happen. Or wars and rumors of wars and systems and all that. We just talk. What I'm saying tonight is just like on a basic little book. In the book says this is what you ought to do. But what I'm trying to say is if you don't, if you don't do that, and so those are the decisions that you have to make. Your wife, your husband. Those decisions that you made, you're going to have consequences in that. Now, we're looking at the positive and the negative. We're talking about the good and the bad. Most of all, when it comes to the things of the Father, we're talking about the obedient and disobedience. So they run there. But everything you do, when you wake up, you make a decision. Well, I'm gonna be late or not be late. That's the decision you're gonna make. You be late too much, you're gonna either lose the job or they're gonna write you up, right? So those that's my personal decision. You're right, but it still affected everyone. When you're not there at your job and when the time that is scheduled to be or whatever, and things happen, I'm just saying, when you're not there, then it affects everything. It affects everything. Some effects of things can be small and some could be great. Some decisions could be life ending, right? Some decision could be life threatening, and some decision could be life injuring, injury in our lives. You know, that one decision, right? That one decision. But that one decision is I could strike a match right now and lay that say light the well, it's hot now, but start the fireplace and I didn't do nothing properly and my house start burning down. Well, it's going to affect everybody around me. Now the fire department has to come. It's going to affect them. It's going to affect whatever they're doing. And then they're going to have to come and put it out. Then the police has to come. Then my neighbors next door, they concerned because their house can get caught on fire. It's going to affect that decision to make. I didn't put the fire in there to have the whole house to burn down, in that. So the mistake factor takes place in our choices and in our decisions. And then there's those consequences. So they cover different areas of life. But the main thing is when we are in covenant with the Most High, those decisions are obedience and disobedience. And there's a consequences for that. And nobody, no, it doesn't matter who's doing it in this sense of if I love my neighbor, if everyone loved their neighbor, well, and then you have to, well, I'm not going to even open that up. Brother, did you have anything else? I'm not going to open that up because that can go a lot of places, meaning that you got to know what the love is, and then you got to know this, and then you know that. It's so much that we do have. But yet it is so simple and so what I want to say. So it's so I don't want to say easy. It's not difficult. It's only difficult when we go after our own ways, and that's a whole nother. I don't want to open that up either. Go ahead, my brother.
Yes, sir. But I definitely, I'm starting to have a clearer picture. When you brought up like the concept of deferred judgment, that really hits home. And I get it in the sense like when you jump from Jump Street, you were coming from Bereshit. So from Genesis, there was a action that brought a consequence. That 6,000 years later exists. So it didn't one action. So then when I'm thinking about the deferred judgment, I think he said in the day you'll surely die, even though it took 1,000 years. So there was still a judgment, there was still a consequence, and I'm looking at it in that sense that what they had done affected more than what they could understand.
Yes,
And like when
yes,
we're
absolutely.
these personal decisions, if they're coming from a selfish place, it's going to have we're going to reap some negative things. I think in the scripture in the Torah it says if the high priest transgresses, he brings guilt on the whole house, on the whole people. So like what I'm thinking about in that sense, it's similar to if one part of my body is sore, my entire body suffers from it. So this one decision, a small a small injury could bring about a great consequence. So like an infection, you may not see the infection coming. Well, you didn't take care of the wound. It was small at first, and now it got out of control. So I don't know how to elaborate further than what you did, because it is very clear on what you're saying. I see now, you know, to think about what I'm doing more, to see that when I do make these decisions, if there's no focus in it and it's not coming from the wisdom of the word, there's more to come. More to come later. So I'm thinking also, I think the Father says he's showing covenant love to those who guard his commandments, but he's repaying to the face those who break the commandments. So there's like this, like you were saying, so if I make the choice to guard, the consequences or the benefits is covenant love. But if I make the choice to fail to guard, then the consequences are punishments to the third and fourth generation. So there's something to be had on both sides. Like when you were saying that about being aligned with the word, just about how big it is, like how it can affect not just my house but my community. But that's the picture. I believe it's straightforward.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And also to reiterate too, that the one of the ways when we making decisions, some of them are quick decisions and all that. They vary, but we're talking about some that's could be changing, or household changing. Some of heavier and lighter matters, right? The heavier matters, we one of the things will help you if you would even give it a try. One of the things will help you is think about who it's going to affect before you do it. And it that takes taking your time. If I do this choice that I'm making, and then the decision to do it, what are the consequences of it though? And then it will give you the idea of what choice to make when it's not I don't want to say outside of the word, but just what are you gonna do, because you with that every time, and how it's gonna affect. If I say this, and most time it's in communication, right? Hey, if I say this, and this is my outcome is better. Sometimes if I say this, then how is this going to affect someone else? Think about what we are saying to make a choice and the decision to say it. So some of those things are help. And it begins practice. As I sit and talk to you or talk to others and those that were listening, those in the room with us, it's something that we practice, you know. But I think what'll help us if we start practicing that, okay, if I go in and say this, if I say this to my wife, what kind of response? So I'm trying to do that. I found out that would be better, because what is the consequences of that? What is the consequences of that? If that choice, and then I make a decision to do something, what is the consequences if we had money in the bank and I spent it all? Who is that going to affect? Instead of, I needed the money at the time to do such and such, But if I slow down, I say, man, if I take that money out, then I'm not going to be able to pay my rent. I'm not going to pay my car note, and that's going to affect. So some of that's what I'm trying in its simplest form. That's what I'm trying to say. I said all that to say that much of it, in that, and those things will be able to work us out. Well, brother, I have a couple of questions here as we begin to close this. And then for those of us that are in the room as well, it'll help me. We ain't going to try to do the right and wrong, or you got these many wrong. But I want to know whether it's true or false. The decision can have both tangible and intangible consequences, right? So if you're still in the room, and I know if you're not asleep, what would that be true or would that be false? All right, would that be true or would that be false? Brother, would you want me to put you on the spot or we could just keep going? Somebody, let me see here. Who's in the room? Somebody give me a T or anybody that wants to participate. Sometimes we don't, we just want to see in our discussion, did you get certain things out of it?
Yes, sir. My answer to this would be true.
Okay, all right. Answer be true. Let me see. Everybody did nobody. Well, maybe it's a delayed of response in that. There we go. We got a true there. Okay, all right. Okay, we got a true in that. All right. Okay, good, good, outstanding. Short-term consequences are always more important than long-term consequences. True or false? Now, before you say something, let me see who's going to say something in the room there. True or false? So the consequences short term, that's more important than the long term consequences. All right, somebody said true. So if I use the example of smoking, and if I'm using this in that example, and somebody else said true. So the short term consequences. Now listen to that, are always more important than the long term consequences. So if I start smoking, I may not get a short term consequences out of that. So which one?
Hmm.
There we go. Okay. All right. That's what I was looking for. All right. I could. That's my thought process in a way. In that. Okay. All right. Let's see. True or false? Learning from consequences only applies to negative outcome. It,
You have a delay. They're saying true to the first question.
Oh, they saying true. Okay, I got. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. They saying true to the first one. I had got a revelation. My wife, my wife came and told me. Okay, so don't feel bad, you guys. I forgot about the delay that we do have, right? So yeah, you guys did right. And then when the false came, so Sister Gwen and Sister Christina, and so y'all. Okay, I got you to the first one because I do have a delay in that. So, all right,
Oh, you got.
what's that?
I could see a
Okay,
new answer.
okay,
They're
okay,
equal to the last, or that may be for this question. I don't know. She can clarify.
okay. So we saying true or false? Learning from consequences only learning from a consequences only applies to negative outcomes. Is that true or false? And then we'll give you time to fill in that or say that. What you say, my brother?
That's false, sir.
Okay, all right. We got a false there. Can anybody else? All right, here it comes now. The yeah. All right. Okay. All right. Hopefully
That's
that we're moving right along where it should be. And yeah, being live like that does have that delay on there, and that's family. So I know family is with me anyway.
that.
Ethical considerations are not important, and decision making. Right? Is that true or false? What we got going on? Is that true or false? Right? All right, there we go. I'm thinking that this is the one. Okay, we'll say. What do you say, my brother?
That is false.
All right, that's false. All right, all right, all right. Okay. All right, one more for the road. All right, this is the $1 million. Now, whoever get this, say it'll give you 1,000,000 two
That
hundred and
was that.
seventy-five thousand.
Oh,
All right, we are not responsible for the consequences of our decision. Oh, we are not responsible. We ain't responsible. Why would I be responsible? I'm not responsible for that. All right, we'll see what we got here. See
like
what
I
we
made.
come up with. Huh?
I said it's not like I made the choice or anything.
All right. It's just a Charlene hanging in with me. She did. All right. All right. Okay. All right.
Of
Yeah,
who to
that's
sit
good.
next
Huh?
of who to sit next to in the quiz.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. We're just having a little fun with it, for sure. And then hopefully that was something that those that may look at it a little later could join in too and get that as well, right? Get that as well. So, because I appreciate everybody that comes in and joins, and then you may not be in a room, but you still may be looking at it. So we'll give you a shout out in that, and hopefully you got those answers that's there. To make it even more easier, the only one was true was the first one, right? And the rest of them was false. So that ought to help us out. Oh man, what that's good. Absolutely beautiful in that. So hopefully that we just like anything, we only just kind of touch the surface of all things. So we want to hopefully that when we make our choices and our decisions that we do, then we need to understand that they will always have consequences to them. So the choices, and then we move out in that and remember those things. And I think it'll help us if when I make a choice to do certain things, who or what it will affect what I'm about to do. Sometimes things are very quick, but I know that, and then some, like I'm gonna use the word heavier and lighter again. I'm repeating, but heavier and lighter. Some things are light. Make quick decisions, whether make a turn, a dodge. Sometimes you can have a animal that comes out in the street, and you have to either stop or go to the left or go to the right. If you go to your left, you could be in somebody else's lane. You go to the right, you could be in somebody behind you. So those are quick. Those are light. Those quick decisions that you have to make. And regardless, if nobody's in that other lane, you're okay. But if somebody's in that other lane, you could affect them. So like I say, it's not always a negative when you're making those choices, or bad choices, or things. When you come down to the, I use the word natural things as well, in that. But let us know though, when it comes to the word of the Father, there's only obedience and disobedience. Okay? Only obedience and disobedience when it comes to that. So there's other words, there's no quick uh you know decision like that. Oh, an animal come out in the road. Oh, I got to make a decision. We don't make quick decisions like that when it comes to the things of the Father. You know. I heard someone say once before, my brother, if the Father said it, that settles it, and then I'm gonna do it.
Oh
Right?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But that can't be in word only. It sounds good, and it makes a good T-shirt, but it
Mm.
just can't be in word only. Anything else, my brother, before we close out? In that.
No, sir. I'm definitely aware of the teaching. I believe what you said right there at the end is the highlight. It make everything, especially when we're thinking about our decisions, aligned with the word is the better way to go.
All right, all right, absolutely. Well, we're gonna call it a night, far as getting into this, and I hope that it was you had your power up moments. You had those moments that you thought about. You had those moments that you just trying to figure out. You had those moments that you didn't agree. You had those moments of what he talking about. You had all of those moments, and guess what? It's okay, right? It's okay. This is an okay place for that. In that, so we're going to grow together and continue to pray for those that are in recovery, and we're praying for everybody that you know. It's always good to pray for one another, right? To pray for those things, and that you will be strengthened, and that we got Shavuot coming up here, hallelujah. So all things being equal, we just praise and honor the Father, thanking him, and looking forward to being with the family, with the assembly, the immediate family, because we know that Israel is worldwide. Is that right? Hallelujah. Okay. All right, my brother. Shalom.